quite a
zoom in on
while.
those lights way off in the distance there. That's the High Nine thing.
Not quite Las Vegas or LA, but it'll do.
Well, we're approaching time. We had to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to get here to the airport. Little light rain on the way. Looks like it's not going to be that neat a day here anyway. Many little gardens in the Maui Airport. And there's the flight we're going to catch. The third one from the bottom, Hawaiian Flight 115 at 6:55. Here comes our airplane. A little bit here. Certainly very nice. Acoustically, very nice to work. Not a lot of harsh surfaces for sounds to echo. I'm quite sure when it's still probably not a very noisy area to work. A lot of wood in here, and that helps keep some of the noise down.
Blow air into the tubes on either side. Remove the from the aircraft. Card outlining emergency procedures.
Well, I guess that's it. Our flight here at the Honolulu Airport, one of the prettiest airports I believe in the world, except maybe for Orlando or Tampa. The worst airports you could spend a 3-hour. We're going to do some snorkeling. Actually, our place too, right over there. One of those 2 red tails with the north compass on it. A lot of neat shops here. Michelle's in this one right there looking at the jewelry and shells. And that's not really our plane. This is actually a is a pretty good size affair, as you can see.
Look at the ailerons, one at the rear of each wing. Turning the yoke to the right raises the right aileron and lowers the left. The airstream strikes the right aileron, causing that wing to go down, lifted. Result, the plane banks and turns to the right. Now watch the tail there. When the pilot pushes the right rudder pedal with his foot, he causes the rudder to move to the right. The rudder blade now catches the airflow, which pushes the tail to the left, causing the nose to go right. So, a simultaneous combination of turning the yoke to the right and pressing the right plane to the right. Turn the yoke left while pushing the left rudder pedal, and the plane heads left. Okay, that's left.
As I was saying, if it were just speed, a car could eventually go fast enough to fly, but it doesn't. And here is the difference. It takes wings to fly. As the plane is pulled forward, air flows over and under the wing here, and an amazing thing happens. The air going over the curved upper surface travels farther and faster than the air passing along the straighter lower surface. This causes a relative reduction of air pressure at the upper surface, so that the lower surface pushes upward, or lifts, and the plane begins to fly. Next, the pilot causes the nose of the plane to turn slightly upward, and greater amounts of air hit the lower surface.
Enter the base pattern, which is at a right angle to our final approach.
Okay, everybody, Michelle's flying. A little to the left, a little to the left.
I need my snorkel ball.
Not so fast, not so fast.
Turn it right, and the air strikes the right surface to push the tail to the left. That turns the
Okay, this is let's level the wings.
opposite half.
It's time to enter the final approach. We'll make another 90-degree turn to the left and line up the plane with the center of the runway.
How come you're leaning when you turn?
To maintain our airspeed.
She leans when she turns.
How much time do you have before
There
you
it
get your
is.
flight?
Till 11:30.
Okay, then we're gonna see if you want to go in now, you want to finish this up.
Oh, let her finish.
land, I can't just leave.
Nose forward. Just
9 minutes then.
Oh, that'll be
Is that all right
fine.
with you? The landing.
going to pull back now on the yoke to slow our descent.
Then she operates the elevator to raise your nose a little.
Oops, sorry, did I mess up your landing here? Whoops, you're
But I'm sitting on the left side of the aircraft.
okay. We can.
That's it. We're on the ground. We'll just give her a careful braking, and when we come to a stop, we'll wait for the tower's instructions for taxiing into the terminal. Well, that was it. Your first flying lessons. I suggest you go to your local flying school and go all the way. There's nothing more wonderful than flying. For now, please hop out and give some other people the chance to start earning their wings. So long now, brave eagle.
Will fly, but more is involved than speed. Otherwise, the car, like riding in a fast-moving car. What do you call that?
Now, where is
and they sailed across 2,500 miles of ocean, reading the waters like a book, studying waves, currents, stars, fish and birds, the promised guides to the new paradise, the new homeland. Ah, when the seas were then mastered, the new Hawaiians yearned for adventure in the skies. Our heroic demigod Maui was the first of us to fly into the air. His grandfather fashioned for Maui a bird craft made from roots, leaves, and feathers. And Maui stood inside, pulling cords that moved the craft's wings, causing it to rise in the air and fly. And Hawaiian youths have dreamed ever since of quests into the sky. But many years were to pass, and much was to change before the first mortals ascended into the clouds over Hawaii.
Ladies and gentlemen, these daredevils are called the Van Tassel Brothers, folks. And for only 50 cents for you adults, 25 cents for the little keiki, you yourself can be a witness to their rise into glory. Right here at Kapiolani Park, this historic 2nd day of November, 1889, one Van Tassel will ascend in a hot air balloon to a height of 1 mile. Wow! Yes, 1 mile. Then he will parachute back to safety on Mother Earth, the first mortal to walk the heavens of Hawaii.
2 decades were to pass before another mortal ventured into the Hawaiian skies. He was J.C. Mars, Bud Mars, and he flew the first powered aircraft seen in the islands. The date, December 30th, 1910. The plane, a Curtiss P-8T, christened the Honolulu Skylark for the occasion. Excited Oahu citizens paid $1 each to watch. The propeller was cranked, the Curtiss coughed into life, and at 2:10 p.m. moved down the field, faster, then faster, and up into the virgin air. Reporting the event, a Honolulu magazine suggested that Mars' feat could lead to quick airship trips between Honolulu and the other island ports. That prediction was not long in fulfillment. In 1918, Army Major Harold Clark flew from Oahu to Maui, then on toward Hilo, but experienced a non-fatal crash on the slopes of Mauna Kea. But let us look at another first, the first commercial passenger flight between the islands. It was February 1920. The pilot, a young barnstormer named Charlie Fern, was making a precarious living by taking passengers aloft from Kapiolani Park for rides in his Curtiss JN-4D, the legendary Jenny of World War I. A wealthy Norwegian wished to fly from Honolulu to Maui to visit a friend and return the same day. Charlie Fern took on this unprecedented job. The pair flew first to Molokai, gassed up, and then on to land at the Maui Fairgrounds. When ready for the return flight, Charlie found that his Jenny was sitting surrounded by mud on the only piece of dry ground for miles. How was he to get the plane into the air without sufficient runway? Charlie recruited a group of soldiers to hold on to the struts and wing fittings. The fearless pilot opened his throttle to full power, brought the tail up into flying position, then gave the signal for everyone to let go. The Jenny leaped forward, stepping into the air with inches of dry runway to spare, then cleared a fence, nosed upward just inches over a barrier of power lines, and gave a gutsy roar as it flew off into history. Soon, the first civilian pilot's license in the islands was issued to a son yet young, a man who eventually would introduce aviation to China and build an air force there. However, no one had yet flown the 2,500-mile leap from the mainland to these tiny specks of land so isolated in a vast ocean. Then, on August 31st, 1925, the eyes of the entire world turned to San Francisco, where Navy Commander John Rogers and a gallant crew of 4 were about to put courage and a flying machine to aviation's greatest test. As the entire world held its breath, Rogers' PN-9 lifted off San Francisco Bay, lumbered heavily past the Golden Gate, and began the long course over the featureless ocean. 10 ships were stationed across the long route, marking the way with smoke by day, searchlights by night. If necessary, they could refuel the PN-9. After flying through the night, Rogers radioed a ship for directions. The directions were garbled, causing Rogers to turn north instead of south. The last drop of gasoline eventually was used, and the plane set down on the ocean 365 miles short of its goal. The world mourned. The brave crew of the PN-9 were given up for lost. But this determined quintet did not give up. They stripped fabric from the lower wings, attached it between the wings, and they sailed toward Hawaii. For 9 days and nights, the strange voyage continued. On the 10th day, the crew sighted the island of Kauai, and were sighted in turn by the unbelieving crew of a patrolling submarine. The sub's captain invited Rogers and his crew aboard. No, thank you, Rogers said. His goal was Hawaii. He would accept a tow into port, but he would leave the PN-9 only to step onto Hawaiian soil. Charlie Fern, now a reporter, saw the sub towing the plane into Nawiliwili Harbor. He stripped to his shorts and swam to the plane.
As I climbed over the side, Rogers looked up and asked, "Have I been court-martialed yet?" I said, "Hell no, you goddamn hero."
And the world rejoiced, thrilled by these plucky heroes and their world record flight of 1,870 miles over water, plus a 450-mile sailing cruise. All this 2 years before Charles Lindbergh's flight to Paris. However, it was the daring feat of Lindbergh, the Lone Eagle, in May of 1927 that inspired a summer of adventures in Hawaiian skies. Go now through the door to your right and be thrilled by the Summer of Eagles. The summer
25, the world had followed the flight to be the first to fly to Hawaii. Now, once again, the entire world has held its breath as 2 more brave Eagles made the attempt. On the morning of June 28, 1927, Army Lieutenant Lester Maitland, pilot, and Lieutenant Albert Hagenberger, navigator, lifted their bird of paradise off the runway at Oakland, California, in the quest to do what was still undone, fly from the mainland and land in Hawaii all the way. Flying a land plane, not a seaplane, and with only their courage for a parachute, the 2 airmen soared through a day and a night. And then, with the coming of the dawn, they circled the green paradise of Wheeler Field in triumph and landed, the very first. Back in Oakland, a young navigator, Emory Bronte, watched from a San Francisco rooftop as the bird of paradise flew through the Golden Gate. Within hours, Bronte formed a partnership with pilot Ernest Smith. Their goal? To become the first civilians to fly the perilous route. On July 14th, their single-engine plane, the City of Oakland, was so heavy with fuel that spectators had to help push it off. But Smith and Bronte needed still more gasoline. Andy Anderson, another Hawaiian aviation pioneer and writer of Hawaiian songs, remembers the event with music.
Bronte and Smith flew over the sea in the race from the coast to Hawaii. They drove through the night and with morning's first light saw the gas in the tanks was low. They sighted the island of Molokai, hoped they could get there in time. But as they drew near, the engine calmed down and they had to go down in a glide. Well, they landed, you see, in a big Kiawe tree, safe and sound from the ride.
Nothing excites like a race. Lindbergh had flown to Paris in a race. And at the end of the summer of 1927, the Summer of Eagles, Hawaiian businessman James Dole sponsored a race from Oakland to Hawaii. Dole hoped to encourage the development of commercial aviation in the Pacific. The Dole Air Derby required strict safety examinations, and many entrants were disqualified. 8 planes passed and were lined up at noon, August 16th, for the starting gun. Botched takeoffs and mechanical malfunctions narrowed the race to 4. The Woolarak, the Golden Eagle, the Aloha, and the Miss Duran. Arthur Goebel and his navigator William Davis in the Woolarak made it first and were welcomed at Wheeler Field by 25,000 happy Hawaiians, plus a $25,000 check. 2 hours later, Hawaiian pilot Martin Jensen and navigator Paul Schluter landed the Aloha for the $10,000 second prize. The Golden Eagle and the Miss Duran were never heard from again. Despite the tragedy at summer's end, the Eagles of the summer of 1927 showed that it could be done. Passengers and goods must surely follow. Then, another air trail was blazed. Charles Kingsford Smith and his Australian crew took off from Oakland the morning of May 31st, 1928, in a 3-engine Fokker plane christened the Southern Cross. After Hawaii, the Australians continued on to Fiji and finally Australia. They proved that Hawaii was obviously the hub for future air travel in the Pacific. Commercial aviation began between the Hawaiian Islands. Air Corps pilot Stanley Kennedy had come home from the First World War, his mind filled with flying dreams of aviation's potential. The visionary young Kennedy took over the family firm Inter-Island Steamship Company, then bought and christened 2 Sikorsky S-38s to create the fledgling Inter-Island Airways. You know Inter-Island Airways today as Hawaiian Airlines. Inevitably, freight and passengers came from the mainland to Hawaii by airplane. Pan American Airways' fanciful plane, the China Clipper, rose above a crowd of 125,000 celebrants and flew out of San Francisco Bay with the first airmail on November 22nd, 1935. Captain Edwin C. Music was at the controls. How calm now was this flight compared to the earlier SkyQuests. After some 17 uneventful hours in the air, Captain Music touched down in Pearl Harbor to be greeted by lay welcome festivities and official speeches. And soon after that first trip, passengers rode in the Clipper's luxurious staterooms and ate in the comfortable dining lounge. The Hawaii-San Francisco route...
Never would have believed it, but that rather abrupt ending is because I didn't bring enough tape. I thought 4 2-hour tapes would be plenty. I can't believe you've sat through 8 hours of our vacation.